Good night, everyone. This is my intro because we're recording at night. Tonight, you have just myself and Garrett co-hosting.
Good evening.
Joe, unfortunately, isn't with us, so you'll just have us, dynamic duos. And tonight, we're going over top 10 TV shows, of which we've received my wife's list.
I can't wait to discuss her list.
And Joe's list.
And I can't wait to discuss Joe's list.
As well as our lists.
Yeah. And Joe, again, not with us tonight, so we are going to be able to make fun of Joe, and he has to wait till next week to give his rebuttal. Again, like Nate said, another episode of the Aliens and Cowboys podcast. Want to mention, it is not just 10 top 10 shows. We're specifically going to talk about the endings to these shows, or endings that are controversial in TV. So I want to put a big spoiler alert for you guys. If you haven't seen the shows as we start to discuss them and you don't want to know how they end, then go ahead and either skip ahead or pause the episode and come back when you're done.
Maybe we should list these.
Nope.
No. I say don't listen to it.
Yeah.
And just guess which seasons we're going to talk about.
Well, we'll talk about the shows, but specifically the endings, the finales.
The endings. Okay.
Because, and what prefaced all this was, after we did a Game of Thrones heavy couple episodes, we wanted to make sure and kind of discuss, it doesn't ending to a show ruin that series, like a bad ending, a good ending. Does a good ending make a show? Does a bad ending ruin a show? Okay? So that's kind of what we're going to talk about tonight. So I've got 10 shows I like. My favorite 10, and I'll go through endings with them. Nate's got 10. Joe, we got his 10, and it's... Joe, I know you're going to listen to this at some point, Joe, so we just wanted to ask, do you only subscribe to Netflix? Because it seems like your entire list is Netflix heavy, and I know you have other subscriptions.
I think between Garrett and I think we've seen maybe 3 of your 10 shows.
I don't even know what the first 2 are. So we'll get to this. So, Nate, before we jump in, I want to talk about a little pop culture. Did you have anything?
No, not really. I've been spending so much time on Assassin's Creed Odyssey, and I know that's an older game. That world is so large. It's taken me so long to travel from island to island to island. It's ridiculous, but I'm really loving it right now.
Okay.
So that's pretty much my only input for pop culture.
Okay. I got a couple things. I went and saw, because, let's preface this, your wife would not let us see Avengers Endgame. And so none of us, as far as I know, Joe at this point, has not seen Avengers Endgame 2. And we know that's a horrible thing because we wanted to cover it. Eventually, we're going to try to all get out to see it. But we
just need 3 permission slips and we're good to go.
Yeah, exactly. Nate's wife put the kibosh on that. So my fiance and I, we went to see Aladdin. And, I know a lot of people were very skeptical about going to that movie or seeing that movie. But let me tell you, that movie was excellent. It really was very well done. It sticks very close to the original cartoon movie. I think Will Smith did an excellent job. I think the lady who played Jasmine did an excellent job. It was very well done.
How did Raj do?
Great. Then, what's funny is, I think people were thinking, how would Iago the parrot do? Funny, he had just funny scenes. He clearly doesn't talk as much in this as he did in the cartoon. He's much more of a parrot that just simply repeats things. Very funny. It was well done. I would highly recommend going out and seeing that movie. I would see it again. So, it was really good. Big things from Disney. Which is funny, too, because there was an article on Den of Geek today that was talking about kind of 3 movies that Disney did earlier than they started doing these Marvel movies that kind of like rehashed Disney's attempt to make movies. Things like John Carter. Is it John Carter?
That sounds right in my head.
Yeah.
But I know what you're talking about.
Yeah. What was the one with Johnny Depp? Lone Ranger?
Yep, Lone Ranger.
And I want to say Tomorrowland. Like these 3...
Tomorrowland,
like these arguable blockbuster movies that flopped and how it kind of like made them kind of reconfigure everything. Really interesting. But they have a lot of live action movies, not just Lion King that's coming, but I think they're going to do, I know my fiance is very excited for the live action version of Mulan.
Whoa.
Which could be pretty sweet.
You know what? I've seen the animated version of that like 3 times in the last 2 weekends with my wife and daughter, so I'm pretty familiar.
Well, speaking of Mulan, and she asked me this. She asked me if I thought they would do a live action version of Pocahontas. And I don't know why they wouldn't. And the reason why I say that is, obviously, they're having success with the, Beauty and the Beast was very successful. Aladdin's going to be successful. I would think they would also want to do a Little Mermaid, but I would think things
live
like
action.
Yeah, I think things like Mulan and Pocahontas though could give a lot of good representation to Hollywood in these particular movies, because in Aladdin,
the concern was whitewashing.
Yes,
is that what you're trying to get at?
Yeah, exactly. And so you have a lot of actors that I've never heard of, never seen before, getting represented in these roles. Like there's no Caucasian actors in Aladdin for the most part. Will Smith is the only one that might not be, he might be the only black guy in the film, but he's there's no white people in the film, and there shouldn't be any white people in the film, to be honest with you. So it is one of those things where good representation, Mulan would have great representation, and I think Pocahontas could have really good representation for people that are acting. So, and then last I want to talk about, I finally got access to Showtime this weekend. Just never subscribed to it. Started subscribing to it.
Did you get access by paying a subscription?
I will not comment on that at this time.
All right.
But I have been dying to see the show Billions. And Billions is everything I wanted it to be. It is excellent. I think and I'm only on season 1, so it's it's very early to tell. I'm probably halfway through it. If this show continues at this clip of how good it is, it will easily make my top 10 eventually. Okay. It stars Damian Lewis, Paul Giamatti, so it's great right off the bat. I know John Malkovich comes in for a heavy favorite in season 4.
So who's Damian Lewis?
He is a hedge fund billionaire. If you've not seen him before, he played Brody in Homeland, or I want to say maybe Captain Winters in Band of Brothers.
Yep.
Yeah, so very well-known actor. He, again, plays a hedge fund billionaire. Paul Giamatti plays the Attorney General of the Southern District of New York, or the Assistant Attorney General, who's basically trying to track down or take down insider trading and basically monitor Wall Street. Excellent show so far. A lot of cat and mouse. Kind of a combination of Boiler Room meets The Big Short. So
Wolf on Wall Street?
A little bit, yeah.
Kind of thing, right?
Yeah, of course. Really good. And I'm excited because Homeland was a show that I really liked. I only was in 4 seasons through Homeland when I quit buying the seasons, as we were moving obviously more towards streaming. So I'm going to be able to pick up the mantle of Homeland and finish it out. So excited for that.
All right. Do you want me to run through maybe the wife's list quick?
Yeah. Why don't you give us her top 10?
All right. So
hold on. This is her top 10 all-time favorites, correct?
No, these are like top 10 series that came to her head right away when I asked her.
Okay.
So these are like impromptu, instant reactions, right?
Okay.
Word association type things. Ozark on
Okay.
Netflix. Pretty Little Liars, which just released a new season, which is a spinoff, from my understanding. I never watched the originals. The Green Arrow.
Okay.
Which has been going for a while now. Also has a lot of ties into The Flash and the other CW series. Word Party. Maybe you've heard of it. A little different genre. Garrett. I was introducing Garrett to the theme song before.
Not a fan. It's not on my list.
So, yeah, it's not exactly for our age group. We've been watching way too many episodes with our daughter.
It's like
a year and a half.
It's like one of those Baby Shark songs, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, yeah.
Only better.
It's a party with words. It's exactly what it is.
There you go.
She also had listed Grey's Anatomy, which she's currently watching. Station 19.
What's
on
that?
the list. I think it's a spinoff.
What?
To where one of the previous doctors becomes...
One of the previous doctors of Grey's Anatomy?
Yeah.
Since you don't know this, I think it just illustrates you need to spend a little bit more time watching her TV shows.
Oh, well played on air. Well played on air.
Sucker.
But he becomes a part of a fire station, Fire Station 19, and it's essentially the same formula type situation, but a little bit different situations. Another one that she mentioned was American Horror Story, especially back in its early days, about how popular that was, especially the first season. I remember watching that. I think we were with you, and we watched episodes together on that.
Yep.
But fantastic first season.
Yep.
A Handmaid's Tale.
Yeah.
No comment on that. It's interesting to understand kind of the world apocalypse type ending of where potentially things could
I've seen about 8 episodes of it. I think it's okay. My fiance loves it.
All right. I'll move on. Parks and Rec was another one. along the same comedy lines, It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia. And then American Vandal,
Okay.
which my brother-in-law has actually introduced us to. Season 1 and Season 2.
Okay.
Season 2 is just like right up my comedy aisle. Very immature, very hilarious. But it's kind of a mockumentary of making a murder.
Okay.
So if you're not in anything serious, just looking to have a good time, maybe check it out.
If you like to make fun of murders,
Yeah. Let's put a little bit lighter tone on murder.
Yeah, it works.
No.
And
Okay.
is that the last one?
Oh, that's the last one, yeah.
Okay. Now, have you seen any of these shows besides?
I've watched Ozark. I've incidentally watched a little bit of Pretty Little Liars. I have watched a fair amount of Green Arrow, which I did enjoy the earlier seasons. Not so much when they bring in all these other characters and it gets too big. Word Party. I've watched so many episodes of that. I don't ever want to watch another one. American Horror Story. Again, I would highly recommend the early seasons.
How many of these shows are done? Parks and Rec.
Yeah, Word Party's still going strong. Pretty Little Liars just started a spinoff.
Grey's Anatomy is still going strong.
Yeah.
Such a ridiculous show.
Station 19 is still going. Ozark's still going. American Horror Story, I'm assuming, is still going.
Yeah, probably. Okay.
Handmaid's Tale's still going.
So Erin did not. Okay, so these are her arguable top 10 shows. Okay, so
American Vandal is a series within itself. So there's 2 complete seasons.
Okay.
With a full ending on it.
Okay, so go to your top here. Give me your top 10 list real quick.
All right.
Just burn through it.
All right. I'll say the name and we'll do a word association and you say the first thing that comes to mind. All
Got
right?
it.
Okay. The Fringe.
X-Files wannabe.
Wannabe. Okay. All right. Game of Thrones, which is in my top 5, despite
disappointing.
the final scene. Okay. Dexter.
Very disappointed.
Very disappointing. Californication.
Classic.
I like it. Archer.
Never saw it. Never in the cartoons.
Okay. Arrested Development.
I don't have a word association with that one.
Mixed feelings?
Yeah, I mean, the first 3 seasons were really solid, and they should have just left it. I know I was excited for season 4, but it just wasn't the same. It's okay.
Walking Dead. Never watch it?
We have tried to watch that show 3 times. Currently, I am stuck in a prison, and I don't understand. My biggest gripe with Walking Dead, and I have every intention someday of watching it. I put it down here on my not on my list, but by my list. I have every intention of trying to watch it. I just don't care for any of the characters. Like, none of the characters matter to me if they survive. I don't have any connection or any feeling towards any of the characters. The only one that I would honestly tell you I had a connection to, I want to say, was his wife. What's her name? Sarah Hyland, I think, is the actress. I don't remember what her name is in the show.
Yep.
She dies. And the only reason why I liked her, just the actress, was because she was Dr. Tancredi in Prison Break. And that's the only reason
She
why.
was.
Yeah. So I just can't get into it.
Okay, and that's kind of the same. I think I'd like to see how many people like The Walking Dead and Game of Thrones, because I think there's a high correlation between like character value that you input versus in Game of Thrones and the same thing in Walking Dead.
I think I agree with you. I think there's also an interesting correlation to see the rise of the volume of audience to those shows, because you're going to have the people who read the comics or whatever for The Walking Dead, and then you're going to have the same thing, read the books, and you're going to have those Johnny-come-latelys, myself included, who came to the shows. I came to Game of Thrones probably 2 or 3 seasons into a show, but you've had some people that are going to come to it when it's like 6 seasons in and they just want to watch it because everybody's watching it by now. And Walking Dead was kind of like that. I don't believe it's still as popular as it was probably 2-3 years ago. But I would just say that there's an interesting correlation between, I think, people that really like it and people maybe that feel like they need to watch it to fit in.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of that too between their nerdery.
Yeah.
That says like, I liked it before it was cool, and because now that you think it's cool, I don't think it's cool.
Yeah. Oh, agree.
That's not true. If you like it, you like it.
I agree with that too.
And you should stick to your guns. But okay, continuing on with the list, The Office.
I think The Office is the greatest comedy of the 21st century.
I put down Black Mirror.
I'm okay with that show. I haven't not seen a lot of it. I've seen a couple episodes here or there. I've liked the episodes I've seen. It is very. It is a what is it, like plot twist thinker shows. I do enjoy it. I think they have some really interesting commentaries. So I'm a fan. I just don't go out of my way to watch it.
Yep. They're coming out with a new season.
Okay.
By the way. But yeah, it's an anthology, so each one is itself within itself. Okay. Very different themes, but very cool, very thought-provoking, right?
Okay.
So don't take it just as what you're visualizing, but the whole process within it. And then last but not least, Breaking Bad.
Breaking Bad's good. Breaking Bad's on my list too. Okay, let's run down Joe's list because I've not heard of some of these. Joe, when I get to see you, Joe, I can't believe these are on your list. The first two, and I only know of the first one because I tried to watch it because Joe recommended it. Not that it's bad. I got probably 10 minutes into it and fell asleep, but I also watched it late at night. Called The Last Kingdom. And Joe's commentaries are ongoing series, excellent so far. It's his favorite show right now. It's kind of a Viking show. Not The Norseman, which is really funny on Netflix if you've not seen The Norseman. But
I can't say I've heard of it. No offense to Joe, but
it's on Netflix. I don't know. He's Netflix heavy right now.
I'll have to talk to him, see if I need to give it a shot.
I had to Google the second one because I've never heard of it, called Godless. Also a Netflix show. That's a cowboy show from what it looks like. Psych, he likes that. That's on my to watch list someday. I've heard really good things about Psych. If you like those procedurals, I think it kind of runs in the vein of those USA shows like
Monk,
Burn Notice,
Royal Pains,
White Collar, Burn Notice, stuff like that.
We did good.
Yeah,
naming this.
Clone Wars. I did see some of this on his recommendation. It is actually pretty good. He says that basically they left a lot to be resolved on this one, but Disney Plus is going to pick that back up. Altered Carbon.
I've actually seen this. I did really enjoy this for a sci-fi series.
Have not seen this. I don't know if I'm going to watch this or not. Is it Joel Kinnaman? I want to say is the actor. He's from The Killing. He's also from the new show. I think it's on Amazon called Hannah, and he's definitely from I want to say Suicide Squad.
So just kind of generically speaking, it's about like people who digitally download themselves and can like re-input themselves into any genetically modified kind of body. So you don't really know who's who.
Got it.
And you don't know what they look like. And, there's questions of like where your soul lies and what kind of morality there is. It brings up a lot of interesting issues. But
is this like a multiple season show or is this like a one season show?
It's a one and done.
Got it. Yep. Firefly.
Heard a lot of great things.
I have too. I have not seen it. I think Hulu's got it right now. Nathan Fillion, who I really enjoy from Castle, I can tell he became a jerk. Got canceled. Obviously, they made the movie Serenity, I want to say, to kind of pull up the plot line.
Joss Whedon?
Yep.
Famous name to that?
Yep. Parks and Rec? Never seen it. I mean, I've seen I should say maybe the first season, but I haven't seen all of it.
Oh.
To me, I'm not a big Amy Poehler fan, and I can't get past the fact that she's trying to be a Michael Scott knockoff. Who's the guy with the mustache, though? Ron
Swanson.
Great.
Ron Swanson.
Great character.
Heck
awesome
yeah.
character. Stranger Things. Pretty popular.
That's a bit of a one and done.
No, it's not. They're like on season 3. They're going to come out on season 3.
Yeah, I don't know.
I think with Stranger Things is I like it. I'm not hooked on it. I could walk away from it and not finish that show out.
Okay.
Do you agree, or do you think you would have to finish that show out?
I don't feel the urge to I have to watch it, and I don't have to watch it the night it's released.
Right.
But I'm interested in watching it and feel time.
It's not bad. I'll definitely give it a shot. There's shows that I just, we talked about this. There's so many shows to watch. You really have to pick and choose and leave something behind. Mm-hmm. Hell on Wheels. And his comment to it was, wanted it to end differently. And then last was Umbrella Academy, which I know is only on its first season on Netflix. I have not seen that.
And I think Joe's going to slap me on the wrist for this one. I think it's a graphic novel that was based on, or at least a comic.
I have no idea. I just know I think it's got Ellen Page in it, whatnot.
Sure does.
Anyways, okay, Joe, such an obscure list of shows.
I wish you were here to defend yourself, Joe.
Yeah, you know what these remind me of, Joe? And I'm just going to talk to the mic like I'm talking to you. These remind me of saying your favorite movie is Master and Commander. And I hope the audience at home who clearly never
watches that episode.
Yeah, clearly never watched Master and Commander because it was horrible. I think that some of these shows, although Nate's vouched for some of them, I think you can do better. I think there are better shows out there. And I'm going to make it my mission to broaden your horizons on TV. So let's get to my list of top 10, Joe.
Yeah. Why don't you one-up him without him able to defend himself?
Now, these are my top 10 favorites. Sopranos, Justified, Wire, White Collar, Office, Married with Children, which is one of my all-time favorites, Lost, Sons of Anarchy, The Shield, Breaking Bad. Now, I've got 3 shows down here, or really 5 shows I put on the side, because 3 they're not done yet, so I don't want to put them on my list yet. Westworld, which I'm a big fan of, Billions, which I told you I've just started watching, but it could easily make my top 10, and Homeland, which I really like. I just have to finish it out. Below it, though, I put Mad Men and The Walking Dead, because Mad Men is a show that I cannot watch. I fall asleep every time it's on. I want to like it. People tell me I would love it. People tell me I need to watch it. I just can't get into it.
You need a kick of caffeine to
I need something. Right. Game of Thrones not makes my top 10. It's not in my top 10. It's just not. I've noticed it is on yours. It's not on Joe's. And I don't remember. Joe might have mentioned that earlier, that he thought he originally had it on his top 10 and removed it. Is that correct, or am I thinking that?
That sounds right.
Yeah.
My recollection. It's certainly not on the list.
Right. So after a week off of Game of Thrones, or does that change anything for you, or do you still feel like it's a great show?
I don't think so, no.
Okay.
And are we going to jump into this now, as far as how endings affect
because this is the whole point
show for the entirety?
This is the whole point of how I wanted to have this episode. I want to talk about some of your favorite shows, or just classic shows, maybe not your favorites, but shows that had good endings, bad endings, okay endings, or endings that you had to come back to later, and then you appreciated later in time. So, an example, just for the audience at home. My favorite show all time is Sopranos. I did not watch that show in real time. I do know that had I watched it in real time and was able to comprehend it, I would have been frustrated and very angry at the time that show ended and how it ended. Okay? I know that coming to it later, knowing how it ended and being okay with it, and I watch that show at least once a year, so I see the ending all the time. I know how they've kind of, framed it, the arguments for the, again, spoiler alert, the show goes black. You're not sure if Tony Soprano lives or dies. And the point of it is, you as the audience is supposed to kind of make up your own determination of whether you think he lives or dies. Okay? And there's definitely evidence to strike that he dies, and there's evidence, I would say, that strikes that he lives. So, but essentially, because it goes fade to black, a lot of people thought their cable went out when that show first aired. And they were very angry about that. So, again, that's a show that the more I sit with it, the more I'm okay with it. Okay? So that's kind of an idea here. So let's start with good endings, Nate. What shows do you think have a good ending to you?
So of my top 10 list, I really only had one that I thought had a likable ending.
Okay.
And that was Breaking Bad.
Okay. And Breaking Bad's on my list too. I agree with you. I think Breaking Bad has a very good ending.
It's headed to this termination point with Walter White having cancer. Obviously, there's terminal cancer.
Yeah.
And there is going to be an ending. How he goes out is kind of left to the imagination as we follow him through these antics.
Yeah.
And I think it totally does the show justice.
Yeah.
In the end.
Well, and I think at one time, I do think, and I could be wrong because I haven't seen the show in a couple of years now, I do think he gets cured of the cancer, but I do think it comes back at the end. So he is going to be terminally ill again. He is going to die of the cancer. It has spread. So let's talk about what makes a show a good ending. To you, what makes a good ending?
So it's so hard. I was having this discussion before, right? About the only thing that seems to stick in your head is when a show doesn't have a good ending.
Okay.
Right? When it has a good ending, it doesn't really stick in your mind. It just kind of fades into nothingness, right?
Okay.
The only thing is hey, this ended and it did not do that show justice at all to the characters. So a very good, and I think that's part of the problem of having television shows, just the nature of having cancellations, writer's strike, all these different things about movies have the advantage of having, hey, you have a 2-hour runtime. You're going to start here, you're going to end here.
Yep.
And we're going to have some editing, so you might end up like hour 45, 2.5 hours.
Right.
Shows don't have that opportunity. They're set there to say, hey, gain a huge audience as quickly as possible, and then leave this little red herring that maybe we could extend your show and do another season.
Yeah.
And
no, you're right. And if you think about it, like Sopranos was supposed to, from my understanding, be a 4-episode or 4-season show. Breaking Bad was supposed to be like a 1-season, 2-season tops type of show, right? But it gets traction. People want it. The producers want more. The stations that they put them on, like HBO, for instance, wanted more. And they make the director and the writers come up and stretch the story, sometimes beyond what you want that story stretched.
Yeah. It becomes thin.
Yeah.
The story becomes thin.
Yeah, absolutely. So I agree with you. And for me, I don't think a show has to have a happy ending or a bad ending. I want the ending to just simply be appropriate to the story we've been told for how many seasons we've been told.
I agree.
Okay? So, for instance, with Game of Thrones, I'm not mad that Jon killed Dany. I'm not even mad that Jon got banished to the north. I'm not mad about any of that. What I'm mad about is that a character we were told for 7 seasons didn't care about anything and didn't want anything and didn't want to be king, didn't even want to be Lord of the North, is all of a sudden wanting to be king because that's why he showed up.
Well, and Daenerys is righteous in some respects. I mean, she has to kill some people.
Yeah, I'm okay with the Mad Queen. I'm fine with that. Like, I'm not against it. I get the concept of making that writing. Granted, the shortened seasons really do injustice to it for what they were trying to do is flipping on a dime with her character, essentially, from what we think, because it's only like 2 episodes. But I think the outcome of having... If all we're told for 7 or 8 seasons, what is it? 8 seasons, yeah. 8 seasons that the Iron Throne is what matters, and the one kid or guy who didn't want it, wasn't supposed to want it, have it, need it, knows how it's going to end, and
then he says, "Yeah, I want it."
Yeah.
Yeah, that's why I'm here.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I just think that's what I'm saying. I don't feel like that's an appropriate ending. It's kind of like my argument against the Night King being killed by Arya. It wasn't that Arya kills him. I mean, it's fine. It's that you told me for 3 seasons that Jon basically is destined to fight this guy. And that he doesn't do it.
Doesn't even raise a sword to him.
Yeah.
I think the other problem with like Game of Thrones too is like, right, you're trying to pace yourself and pace your ideas and lay out the groundwork for all these things.
Yeah.
And then you get to season 8.
Yep.
So you've been working at, okay, let's say like a 10-minute mile pace, right?
Yep.
And you get to season 8 and then you're trying to run a mile in 5 minutes and get all that content in, and you can't do it.
Well, and not only that, but to be fair to Game of Thrones, and then we'll get off Game of Thrones because we cover that enough. Remember, the writers of the producers, or Benioff and Weiss, they were only adapting from 5 novels. They weren't supposed to adapt the finale of the show. So it'll be interesting how that works. I just know that that's a show. Again, it's not in my top 10. I just don't. I think it's going to have an ending where I'm going to have to come back to it later and see if I enjoyed it better the second time on a rewatch, and if I can see how if they planted anything regarding Bran, as far as like if there's anything hidden. Like, he's the character, if I go back and rewatch, that I'm watching most of the time now. Because I'm gonna follow his arc to say, where is it that all of a sudden they made that this is what's going to happen?
Yeah.
And if they did it with 2 episodes left and they made that decision on that day, then I have a problem with it.
So maybe I'll just touch on from my list how many shows of mine are suffering from that same symptom.
Okay.
One is The Fringe.
Okay.
Where they build this relationship up between the 2 main characters, and kind of the final main episode, Joshua Jackson. They fall in love and they realize kind of who he is, and they just kind of...
The old man and Joshua Jackson?
Not the old man.
Okay.
I forget her name.
Okay, so I'm sorry. There is a male and a female lead. So it is like X-Files.
Yes.
I keep thinking of the guy who plays Moreland Holmes or plays the guy from
female
Lord of
is actually like the agent, whereas he's more the like exiled scientist.
Okay. All right. So I forgot they had a female character.
But I think if you go through the seasons, it feels so rushed, exactly like Game of Thrones does, where they throw all this stuff and like, you guys didn't figure out that those 2 were in love, and he's the guy that has all the power, and this is going to end, and that sort of thing. It doesn't. Again, it doesn't injustice.
Okay.
Game of Thrones, we just talked about that. Dexter.
Put a pin in Dexter. We'll come back to Dexter.
We'll go back to that. And all the rest of mine are kind of, well, I've got an animated series, which doesn't count. Arrested Development, which I don't think I'm going to disregard in the respect as kind of a one-off.
Okay.
The Office, again, I'm going to disregard that one. And then Black Mirror, which is an anthology, which is each episode within itself, which kind of doesn't lend itself very well to this conversation.
What do you think of The Office ending at Dwight and Angela's wedding? Michael Scott makes an appearance. He's Dwight's best man. I thought it was okay. I know, like I said, I think this show is the best comedy of the 21st century. I think it's a travesty that Steve Carell did not win an Emmy for this performance. I know that we debate all the time, could this show get made today? And I actually argue yes. And the reason why is because it's the most watched show on Netflix right now. Like, there's an audience for this show.
Yeah.
They want to watch this show. And I think that the show definitely goes downhill when Steve Carell leaves. There's no argument against that. But that first 7 seasons, I rewatch this show probably every other day. I watch an episode of the show.
Yeah, it's got to be one of the most rewatchable shows.
It absolutely
of all time.
is. It absolutely is. It's classic. It's great. It's comedy. But I think the ending's fine. I don't think the ending's bad. I think it's okay. I just think the show was suffering from the best character left.
Do you think The Office transcends time? Do you think it'll be a favorite?
I do think it will be a favorite. Again, I do understand the argument it couldn't get made today because there's a lot of things Michael Scott does that are #MeToo, racist, sexist. He touches a lot of people.
Blatantly.
Yeah, exactly. And
that's a part of the comedy.
That's the awkwardness of his character, right? Like him and Daryl. It's just like those interactions just can't fly, right?
You can't get over Daryl's reactions. that is no reaction.
Yeah,
to.
Just great. And I'm not going to start quoting scenes from there. That's where I was going to go. I was going to close that line. He's like, if you know Daryl, it's going to be Zoppity. Whatever that means, right? Okay.
Zoppity.
Yep. So,
I'm pretty much through my list.
That's okay.
You want to criticize away?
No, you're fine. Let's talk about some good endings. So I've got The Wire. I know you haven't seen this show.
Okay, so
the reason why I think The Wire is a good ending is some people might say, well, the ending doesn't really change anything because the ultimate story of The Wire is it's basically a microscope into the city of Baltimore from different perspectives, and each season basically focuses on a different aspect of the season, whether it's like the drug trade, the dock workers unions, the schools, a local election, or the media. Okay, like newspapers, and nothing ever gets resolved in the show. And that's the point. Because the corruption, the violence, the racism, the whatever you want to say, is systemic. And so it basically
perpetuates itself.
Right. So themes and people from the first season that you maybe forgot about show up in the 5th season at the finale because it basically just shows you that nothing happened. Right? Or that people don't change. So the main guy named McNulty, he's a cop that's kind of like a borderline alcoholic throughout the show, and he just constantly pushes back against the man. He bucks the system, sometimes to his detriment of his own career, and essentially he ends up back in his own spot. 5 seasons later. The Wire is also a show that simply just comes before its time. If that show was on today, the impact of it would be huge. It'd be one of the best shows. I mean, people would argue...
You think it'd be more popular now than it was when
absolutely.
It was released.
I mean, I know, like I said, on the record, Sopranos is my favorite show. There are a lot of people that will say The Wire is the best drama of all time. It is really good. It's very good. And if you haven't seen it, definitely watch it. If you like Idris Elba, he's great in this show. Breaking Bad, I agree with you. Good ending. Appropriate ending. This is a character that's going to... The whole premise of the show was he gets cancer... Okay, and the character was supposed to be killed off because of cancer. Because the show got so popular, how do we keep it going? Oh, we cured him of cancer. How do we end it? He's got cancer back again. Now he's got to go off and save the day, right? And
yeah, but he also alludes to like his own narcissism too, right? It's this empowerment issue where he controls his own life, right? Yep. He's not going to let cancer or anybody else control his life, and then he gets control of his life, and he ruins other people's lives in the process. I mean, his own family's where he's trying to save them in that process. But I think you tend to kind of take this turn through the seasons to where he's doing this to save his family.
Okay.
He becomes this narcissistic person and takes control of his own life. But at the end, it's at their own detriment.
Yep.
There's no safe way out of the drug trade.
Yeah. I agree. I mean, I think this. Here's the thing. Had that show ended with any alternative ending where he lives, disappointing.
Absolutely.
Because for 5 or 6 seasons, you told me he's going to die, or 7 seasons, however long that show was. White Collar, personal favorite. Not probably a lot of people watched it. It's one of those USA shows. I just like that Neil Caffrey kind of fakes his own death, goes off and starts stealing, stuff in other countries. It's a good show. It's one of my favorite shows. And it's not this show is not better than Game of Thrones, but if you had asked me what show I'm going to be rewatching more in the next 10 years, I'm going to watch White Collar many times more than I am going to watch Game of Thrones. The next one is a favorite of mine, and it is a forgotten show. It's called The Shield. If you've never seen The Shield, it's because it gets bookmarked or bookended, basically, between Sopranos and Breaking Bad. So some people would argue that Tony Soprano kicks off the start of the anti-hero. Some would argue it's actually Sarah Jessica Parker from Sex and the City. Okay?
Depending on who you're talking
Yeah, exactly. But they make that argument. But let's, for argument's sake, say Tony Soprano is the first anti-hero that we root for as a TV
Sarah Jessica Parker as an anti-hero?
For Sex and the City. I've never seen it, so I can't make the argument, but people do make that argument. But as a TV show character, like, you root for The Godfather, right? Like Michael Corleone, but that's a movie. What TV show do you really root for, like, a villain?
Lucifer.
Back in 2000.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
sorry.
This is like one of the first, right?
I answer that too easily.
Tony Soprano comes along, and because of Tony Soprano, it opens the door for people like Vic Mackey from The Shield, played by Michael Chiklis. This is the best corrupt cop show that's out there. It is nitty, it is gritty, it's an FX show. Walton Goggins is a co-star in this thing. Forrest Whitaker, Glenn Close, Michael Pena, Anthony Anderson. It's got a superb cast going back and looking at it now. The other benefit of it is, like I said, it basically spawned, like, if it wasn't for this, you don't get Sons of Anarchy. Okay, Kurt Sutter was a writer for The Shield. A lot of the cast from Sons of Anarchy, The Shield shows up in Sons of Anarchy. Great ending. Corrupt cop ends up having to basically cop to all the sins he's ever done, including killing other cops, which they show you. Real gritty. Basically, his entire strike team, which is his group, is either dead or he had to give them up to go to jail so he could live. Basically, live freedom. He's basically stuck behind a desk on a 9-to-5 job because he struck a deal. They weren't sure when they struck the deal how much stuff he did. It's a great episode. He basically puts on a recorder. He asks them if they have enough tape. Like, this was 7 seasons of, like, just corruption like none other. And he basically ends with him in a suit, which he never wore, looking out the window as cops are going towards some kind of a scene of an accident or something, right? And he can't chase it because he's no longer allowed to do that. He's basically been put on a paper pusher job because of his immunity deal. But this acting by Michael Chiklis won an Emmy. And again, he's forgotten because what comes next is Sons of Anarchy and Breaking Bad. And you get these other anti-hero characters. Good ending. Great ending.
I can't get over his acting of The Thing.
Fantastic Four? Yeah.
He acted right out of that suit.
Oh, the whole wasn't that Chris Evans in that movie too?
Yeah. How Fox has foxed up the Fantastic Four and those rights up until now.
I don't know.
Ridiculous.
We'll get to it. Bad endings. Let's hold bad endings because we talked about Dexter. Let's do endings that are okay. I talked about Sopranos, how I think it's an okay ending. The more I come back to it, the more I watched it.
Yeah, and I think it's important to, like, before you sit there and judge in your armchair quarterback situation, right?
Yeah.
How would you have ended it, right?
Yeah.
Ask yourself, what would have done you justice, and how would you have presented it? Because you can't just sit there and throw out critics. I mean, like...
I will say this. For Breaking Bad, I think Breaking Bad has a good ending, but I think I would have... I don't know. Maybe he gets taken out by cops. Maybe he goes to jail. Maybe he dies of cancer in prison. I don't know if that's a better ending, but maybe it's an alternative ending. But again, people like Walter White so much they don't want that ending.
Yeah.
Then they would have hated it. But it would have been appropriate that he goes to jail for everything he did because he did a lot of heinous stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And that he suffers from cancer in jail. Sons of Anarchy. Did you finish the show?
I did not finish it, no.
Sons of Anarchy. Interesting show. I made the argument a long time ago to friends how I would have ended the show. Because in this show, every character from The Shield shows up. Okay? So, because the shows are supposed to exist in the same timeline. So, The Shield and Sons of Anarchy exist with the same gangs.
What about locations?
Sons of Anarchy is in a fictional town called Charming. But it's supposed to occupy the same realm.
Okay.
They could have done a crossover after the final season where they brought in Michael Chiklis as Vic Mackey and some of these strike team members, which I know that there was a guy named Lem that was a member of the Sons of Anarchy that gets killed off, I think it's season 4. But they bring in Walton Goggins. He's a transvestite. Could have brought him in. Could have brought in Ronnie Gardocki instead of making him just a normal FBI agent. You could have made these guys the strike team and had them take down Jax Teller. That's how I would have ended Sons of Anarchy. That they get taken down by the strike team. Instead of I don't know, he kills himself because Michael Chiklis hits him with a semi. So he's in it. He kills him, essentially. He does take him out, but not in the way that would have been cool.
Yeah, he spoiler alerted that one for me.
Yeah, I told the audience, spoiler alert. Justified, one of my all-time favorite shows. He should have just killed, rather than Given, should have killed Boyd Crowder. Doesn't kill him. Spoiler alert, doesn't kill him. Goes to prison. The Office. Again, talked about that. I think it's an okay ending. Yeah. I'm all right. I'll tell you, one of the best parts was Michael, when Michael Scott shows up, they kind of pan to him at the end, and they ask him what he thinks about everything, and I think he turns and looks at all the people, and he goes, I'm like a father. I'm so happy my kids grew up and married each other. It's like one of his uncomfortable jokes. It's really good.
I hope to be a part of one someday.
Inside joke. I don't know. I know Daryl. Gonna be Zoppity. Okay, so let's talk bad endings. There are 3 really bad endings of shows I want to talk about. Let's do Dexter. You break down Dexter, Nate. Why is Dexter a bad ending to you?
Deb, for one, dies, right? As a part of the mishaps and the antics of Dexter, whom Dexter loves so much and is there protecting the entire series. He goes out into a boat in the middle of a hurricane. Yeah,
first off, dumps Deb into the water off the boat in the hurricane.
Yeah. Survives.
Apparently.
Goes to... Is it Alaska?
I think it's Oregon.
Oregon, yeah, okay. I'll bet that. Oregon.
Yeah.
Grows a beard.
Yep.
Cool. More hair and evidence to lay across the crime scene in the future serial killer situation. So wait, he goes from Miami to Oregon?
Yeah. Here's the thing. This is a show that not only does he dump what they did with Deb, that they put her in a coma. They didn't even kill her right away. They put her character into a coma so that Dexter could put her in the ocean and kill her. Okay, so she was alive. He unhooks her, takes her out on his boat, and dumps her in.
Is she on life support? I forget.
I think she's on life support. She's a coma, life support. So, she's like a vegetable.
Okay.
But they don't kill her. They just keep her alive. He rides off into this hurricane. You think he's dead. He also leaves his son, who's nobody knows what happens to the other kids in the show. Remember how he has...
Also, spoiler alert, his wife dies, so it is literally just his son alone. There's no other family.
Leaves the son with another serial killer.
With another serial killer.
That's right. Great parenting. Okay?
Trust.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean,
don't do it.
Just a ridiculous ending.
Don't do it.
I mean, if you were watching that show in real time, and I did watch that show in real time, do you think he should have died? Do you think he should have died other than going off into a hurricane?
Yes.
I think that I don't know. I just think that Deb putting handcuffs on him would have been a better ending. Again, not a happy ending. You don't need a happy ending for a show.
I would rather seen a Rorschach moment, right, from Watchmen, to where Dexter has to go to jail with a whole bunch of people that are horrible people.
Okay.
That goes completely against his will, where his code or whatever.
Yeah.
And his code is to kill people who do wrong.
Yeah, I mean, let's be honest. Some of these characters, Dexter, Soprano, these are some Walter White. They're horrible people. We root for them because we think they're really cool.
Anti-heroes, yeah.
Yeah, but the endings of them should be bad endings.
Yeah.
Tony Soprano probably should have died or gone to jail. Walter White died or gone to jail. Okay. Same thing with Dexter. Died or gone to jail. Not left it open so they could come back and revisit the show later if they wanted to. That's a money grab.
Yeah, it is a money grab.
This is, I think from listener feedback I got prior to this episode, this is the one show that everybody was the most disappointed in, was Dexter.
I believe that, yeah.
And I think that, let me ask you this, does that ending for Dexter, does that ruin the whole show for you?
If I were to rewatch it now, I would not rewatch the last season.
So yes, it ruins the show for you.
I mean, I'd leave it at the previous season.
Okay. I mean, there are some people that make the argument that after season 4 with the Trinity Killer played by John Lithgow that the show goes a little downhill. I would say for a season or two it does. I really think it picks back up, but then I think it dips back down. But I tried to rewatch this show, and I'll be honest, the first season really wasn't that good to begin with. If you go back and rewatch the first season, I think
was it just such a new concept at the time that you really wanted to?
Yeah, I think the first season, the first couple episodes, really slow. If you go back and really rewatch it and like give it a shot, I think that this was a show that I agree with you that the ending just really kind of takes it away from it, kind of ruins it. How about Weeds?
I never saw the ending of this.
Okay, so let me explain this to you. 6 seasons in, at the end of the show, the kids get on a plane and go to Amsterdam with the uncle or the crazy brother, right? I don't remember his name. Super funny guy. And she gets arrested at the airport. Mary Louise Parker does. Okay? Or Nancy Botwin. That's where they should have ended the show. They get off to Amsterdam. They're free. They're able to do whatever they want. She gets arrested. She goes to jail. Perfect ending. Nope. Brought it back. The next season, she's living in a halfway house. She gets out. She gets shot in the head by a sniper and survives.
Okay.
The final season. The final season's so bad. I don't know what they did with the young son Shane in the show. Horrible. They do a final episode, a 3-year later episode, or like a 5-year later episode, where he's got a fake mustache on to try to make it look like he aged. Horrible ending. Had they just simply ended it at season 6 and not try to grab the money, it would have actually been a really good ending to that show. But, dude, she survives a bullet to the head.
Isn't it incredible to see where shows will go? Because she was your local neighborhood dealer in like the first season,
kind of like Walter White.
Yeah, it's true. You're like, talk about escalation. Out of control. Yeah, I still think I stopped at like season 4 when the youngest son whacks with a croquet mallet one of the drug dealers and he falls dead into the pool.
Yes.
That's where I stopped.
Yes. Pretty good show to begin with, though.
Mm-hmm. Very interesting concept. It's a lot of fun to watch.
Here's a question. Who's the better drug dealer? Nancy Botwin or Walter White?
Dealer? Or... Walter White.
Are you just saying that because he can make his own stuff?
No, because he would stick a machine gun in his trunk and kill Nancy Botwin.
Okay. I do agree with you that Walter White could probably kill Nancy Botwin.
I think he would outwit Nancy Botwin.
Whoa. Okay.
I'm saying if you're having a creator of the drug, Walter White's your man. I'm thinking if you have a salesperson, a business development individual, it would be Nancy Botwin.
She did good. I mean, you know what's funny is Jeffrey Dean Morgan's in that show for like a split second.
He is.
Do you remember Kevin Nealon in that show though?
Yes. Oh
so
my
good.
gosh.
So good, right? Also, just great. Okay, final show that's really bad. Bad ending. Lost.
And I heard a theory on this, right? So
oh, I'm ready for this.
It's not that big a deal. So Lost was on the premise they knew where they were going to start. They knew where they were going to end. And they were just supposed to fill in the pieces along the way. But if you don't know when you're going to end, how long do you string it along like we've been talking about? And be like, oh, we're really close, but we got to pull back and have some like misleading clues and stuff.
So, I do like
don't like it.
I like the show. If you can Men in Black me and zap me with that thing to erase my memory, this is the show that I rewatch for the first time. It is addicting. The most addicting show I've ever seen. Because they do that at the end. They grab you just to go to the next show.
You and I watched it through college.
In college,
I don't know how many episodes a night.
Yeah, talk about being stupid. We watched 4 or 5 episodes a night to race through the first 5 seasons of this show to be able to watch season 6 live.
How many hours that is?
Do you know how dumb it is to watch this show 5 episodes a night and then go to one episode a week? We
forgot about class. Did we even go to class?
Yes, Mother, we went to class. But this was a show that the idea, again, spoiler alert, that they were dead the whole time, living in purgatory, kind of ruins it. I mean, just not really a good ending.
I don't know how. So I didn't see the end, to be completely honest.
You didn't see the end?
No. So they go to purgatory, right?
Where did you stop? No, they've been in purgatory. This is purgatory.
Oh, but how do they? When do they recognize that? And
the final episode when people die or whatever, and they all meet up in this church.
And And do they have a decision to go back to life, or to go to hell, or to go to
I don't remember that. They just get to hang out. No, they were in purgatory. The island was purgatory, and when they all die, they meet up in this church type thing, is like heaven. I don't know. Really weird.
Oh, they all go to heaven,
including Ben Linus,
the guy that pulls a shotgun out of his piano bench.
That was like one of my top favorite scenes of the show when he did that. Great character. Ben Linus, Tyrion Lannister, Walton Goggins or Boyd Crowder. Those have got to be 3 of my favorite TV show characters of all time.
Future episode, maybe.
Could be. Your thoughts on Lost? Because you watched it. How far did you get?
Yeah. I don't remember. I got to the point where it was just so ridiculous. You get strung on to the point where you're like, all right, this is a tease, this is a tease, and there's no payoff.
Yeah.
So, like, even in the first season, there's like a polar bear on a tropical island.
Yeah, I stopped watching at that point.
And you start asking, like, what the hell? But they do such a good job of, like, a ticking time bomb, but you don't really know what the ticking is, and underground bunker, and why are they all these animals, and time travel, and like crazy stuff.
Here's a question for you. Which show that you're currently watching do you think will have a bad ending?
Will have a bad ending.
Is there anything you're currently watching that you know is going to disappoint you?
The only one that actually qualifies in this category, it's got to be Walking Dead.
Okay.
I know there's been huge criticism on the previous season.
Okay.
I can't imagine this ends well.
So for me, it's going to be Westworld. I think Westworld is kind of the most similar to a Lost type show. I think that Westworld is going to have a bad ending. I feel like from the previews of season 3, it looks like it's almost going a completely new direction all the way, and I feel like they don't know where they're going now. Because it looks like it's a completely different story. And I would say that Westworld, to me, is probably the number one show that I like that's going to let me down. Probably Homeland when I get to it. When I finish it out.
I'll jump back to Westworld, though. To counter your point, I'm strangely interested. I really want to watch the new direction that they take, though.
Okay.
With Aaron Paul.
Have you seen the 2 seasons?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So, but do you not get but does that not scare you that all of a sudden they're flipping directions?
A little bit, yeah.
Okay.
They kind of allude to that and to how they even engage investors for the original Westworld, too, though.
Well, okay, so here's the thing. So Homeland. You haven't seen Homeland, right?
Mm-mm.
Okay.
No.
Homeland is the only show I know that did a really good job of successfully killing a main character and transitioning the show to being actually really good. So 3 seasons in, they kill one of the main characters, and then they take it a different direction.
It's like the main character, right?
Yeah. So
Game of Thrones.
They kill. Yes.
I give you.
Okay. Game of Thrones. Sorry, Homeland. They kill Brody.
Yeah.
Spoiler alert. He gets killed in the end of season 3.
We're bad at spoilers.
Season 4, they go a completely different direction with Carrie as the main character now by herself to fight terrorism in a different way. But the idea is they picked up the show and completely moved it across the world and positioned her like in I want to say she's in Turkey, maybe? Middle East, definitely. And completely have to redevelop the show now without Brody, the main character. Mm-hmm. You know, and they were successful at it. Game of Thrones, you're right. Game of Thrones did do that as well.
Homeland takes on a whole different level, though.
Yep.
Because, I mean, he is the premise of the whole conspiracy of everything.
Yes. Ned Stark might be the best actor. He's not necessarily the main character.
Right.
Brody is the story. It kind of reminds me, which we didn't really talk about. So, did you see the new Terminator trailer?
I did.
Okay, what'd you think?
Better than what I thought when you first described it to me.
Okay.
I was kind of interested in it.
So let me tell you this. I love Terminator. I'm going to see it. I'm going to see all the Terminators. Can I tell you what I'm scared about? There's no John Connor.
Yeah, where'd he go?
So they're going to supposedly CGI Edward Furlong's face onto somebody and make him John Connor in this movie.
Oh.
However,
I'd rather they have him kill him off in some way.
Oh, no.
Say Linda Hamilton's lineage carries on to some degree.
Horrible. No, because here's the thing. From my understanding, Terminator 1 and 2 exists. Terminator 6 exists. The other Terminators don't exist in the storyline anymore, from my understanding.
Are those all James Cameron's adaptations?
Yes. James Cameron did 1, 2, and he's doing 6. Okay?
So he's completely disregarding
3, 4, everything, right? Now, with that being said, if John Connor is not in this movie or plays a significant role, we just completely altered the entire story. Like, here's the thing. I understand that they're going towards a female lead heavy-centric movie, right? Fine. I'm okay with that. If you even wanted to reboot it and make her Joan Connor, make her Joan Connor. I don't care. But don't tell me that John Connor is the absolute most significant, important character of this story, and we're just going to write him out of the story or arguably kill him off. If that's what they do.
Yeah, because from the trailer, and what I've watched is she comes out of the woodwork,
Yep.
recognizes that one of the other chicks is a Terminator.
Yep.
A quote-unquote, maybe human Terminator.
Yeah, it's just like they did with the Terminator Salvation.
And says that she's defending her because she was her at one point. She was an innocent mother trying to defend her child. Where's her kid at this
that's
point?
what I'm saying. I agree. John Connor's supposed to be the great resistance. And there's a story. Here's the thing. We've talked about this, I think, when we did the Terminator episode, which is in the archive if you want to go back and listen to it. There's a story.
A good one.
There's a story to have here about John Connor. Like, there's a TV series to have with John Connor. People want that. People would watch that. I don't know why they don't. Sorry, digressing off of Terminator. But similar to that, as far as like writing out a main character and still being successful. Very impressive that Holman does it. Obviously, it's impressive Game of Thrones did it. But there's also a difference. They weren't just one season into it. They were 3 seasons into it and killed him off and took it a different direction.
Yep.
I don't know.
Agreed.
I'm trying to think, do you have any other bad endings? Or shows that were ruined by their endings?
Most of mine, I honestly had like a disregard note next to it because like Archer... you don't really...
Because it's a cartoon?
Yeah, because it's a cartoon, a comedy. Arrested Development, again, disregard. The Office, disregard. Black Mirror, for the sake that it's an anthology and they stick within their own realm.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, Californication is one that, like, you just hold out so much hope for what a good person
Hank really is.
Hank is underneath the surface.
I love Californication.
But his, like, basic instinct is to do his natural instinct, and that is to kind of disregard his family. And you cringe inside every time he makes a wrong decision. And, you know, ode to the writers on that. They are the ones that are like promoting that feeling inside of you when that happens.
Well, here's the thing. So let's look at Joe's list so we can give Joe one last beat down before we let him go.
Oh, I was going to wink and a nod.
So, Clone Wars. I've seen some of it. We obviously know how the Clone Wars ends because we know where the storyline goes for the canon. There is this like main female Jedi that's in this. That's like the main character of the Clone Wars. Mm-hmm. I'm assuming her character has to be killed off somewhere because clearly she's not in the movies. And
she's a Twi'lek of the species, and I think she has some sort of ode to Anakin or like can compete against him.
He was like he was her trainer, like her master Padawan.
Yeah. Okay.
Firefly, we didn't get to do that. Stranger Things. Stranger Things is on his list. Is the ideal show that's going to end badly.
I don't have a clue where that show's even going to end. You know, because I have a hard time with that show because she has psychic powers. I get it. Every time she does them, she bleeds from the nose.
Yeah, she has a brain aneurysm.
At what point does she use so much of her powers that she dies? Because the end of season 2 was that you thought she had kind of passed away, closing the gate. But now she's back and she's doing the same stuff.
Okay, do you think it's going to end?
How do you up the ante? How do you jump the shark?
Do you think it somehow is going to end that her powers get removed and she becomes a normal girl? Because that's what I'm going to bet the ending is. Somehow she becomes a normal person.
Well, that's lame. Then what does anybody do?
Hence, I think it's destined to not have a good ending.
Yeah.
And I think, Joe, looking on your list, Clone Wars, I don't know, Altered Carbon, have to see it. Sounds not fun. Last Kingdom, I'm assuming that your people got defeated at some point because that's history, since it's based off of real events. Godless, again, Cowboys no longer really in the West anymore. I do like that he has a cowboy show on here, though. That's good. Good job, Joe. Cowboys and Aliens.
He's feeling that Red Dead Redemption.
I just called it Cowboys and Aliens. Aliens and Cowboys, Joe. Good job. Hell on Wheels, kind of like that at first. And still Umbrella Academy. Haven't seen it. So, I don't know. So, overall, TV shows. We love TV shows. We watch a lot of TV shows. Endings can really impact our thoughts on a show. Is there any show coming out that you're excited for?
I'd like to see. I would like to see what they do with Stranger Things. Now that you mention it,
Okay.
How are they going to up the ante on that?
I have no idea. I don't even understand. I've seen both seasons. I can't comprehend or am not comprehending the upside down world. I guess. I don't know.
Yeah, it's this ambiguous thing to where like powers aren't defined and you don't know what's what.
It's kind of like Bran.
Exactly.
You don't know the scope of what he knows, and apparently he knows everything.
Even though he's going to be king later.
Yeah, I know. It's horrible. I'm excited for this show. There's a show starting on Showtime. I want to think it's called City Upon a Hill with Kevin Bacon. He's going to play a corrupt cop. It's going to be produced by Affleck and Damon. So it could be interesting. The preview looks interesting. So I'm going to give that a shot. Obviously, Succession comes back. Westworld comes back.
Kevin Bacon's going to star in a new movie that's going to be released called Cop Car.
Okay.
I saw something about
the comedy.
Very interesting. Two kids steal his car. He's a cop.
Okay.
But he's a corrupt cop.
Nice.
And try to take it for just a joyride. And he catches them, and the horrible antics that ensue after the fact for him taking it. But I think he plays a good bad guy.
Nice. You can't steal a cop car. That's what you learn in The Hangover. You steal a cop car, you get tased in the face. In the face! Anyways, okay. Well, that's all I've got for shows. Next week, Nate, we want you to come up with, an audience as well, because we want to know what you guys think. Next week's episode is going to be top 5 movie action stars from 1990. So the premise is you're going to rank your top 5 movie action stars. But the movies they make that you're going to use for your argument have to be 1990 to the current. So, for instance, Bruce Willis can't use Die Hard 1.
Is that 1989?
It's like 88, 89, something like that. But it's not 1990. Okay. So 1990 to the current.
To now.
You're going to rank
top 5 action stars.
Top 5 action stars.
Is it for a series?
Nope. It's just
movie.
Who's the biggest
standalone movie?
It can be a trilogy. Like, who's the biggest action star from 1990? And you can use different criteria. You just have to come up with your own criteria.
All
do you
right.
want to do it based on money grossed? Do you want to do it based on just popularity of single movies, franchises, or what they mean to the action genre?
I'd like to do it based on...
do whatever based on whatever you want. You're going to make the argument to us.
Hamstring and quadricep circumference size.
So Schwarzenegger?
Yeah, okay. All right.
So that's going to be next week's episode.
Spoiler alert.
Top 5 movie action stars, 1990 to the current. In the meantime, go out to Twitter, tweet at us, email us. We'd like to have your feedback. You can get us on Twitter at Alien and Cowboy. Email us at aliensandcowboys@gmail.com. If you think that shows have good endings, bad endings, or ruined the show, or made the show, let us know. We'd like your feedback on that. I'm sure we'll get a couple people's opinions for next week.
Wrong opinions.
Wrong opinions. Obviously, Joe will be back next week, and he'll probably have a lot to say on what we talked about this week.
Joe, I don't want to hear it. Just send us a comment.
Yeah, tweet at us, Joe. You can go out on Facebook.
I'm going to ignore.
Go out to iTunes, give us a 5-star rating. Tell your friends, tell your families. We'd obviously, like I said, like to hear what you guys think. We'll be back next week. 5 action stars from 1990 to the current. Anything else, Nate?
Help me out. Who do you think is top 5?
That's next week.
Help me with my list.
I can't.
No, I'm not asking the audience.
Oh, you're asking. Oh, I thought you were talking to me. You're looking right in my eyes.
Yeah, well, there's no other eyes to look into.
Yeah, that's true. All right. Until then, guys, cheers.
Cheers.